Was Zach Werenski the MVP for the Blue Jackets this season? Was he the MVP of the league this season? We're going to talk about that on today's Locked On Blue Jackets.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get things started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube. I also have to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just go to FanDuel.com to learn more. I was going to talk about the hole on Fantilli's wing today, and then I decided, what if instead of that we talk about Zach Werenski, who was nominated for the Norris trophy yesterday, one of three finalists for the best defenseman in the NHL. Which, yes, Zach Werenski absolutely was a top three defenseman in the NHL this season. Just where does he sit on that? Like, was he the best? Was he second? Was he third? Like, is there an argument that actually Zach Werenski was better than people even thought he was, right? I don't think it's unfair to say that Zach Werenski was one of the best defensemen in the league this season. I think it's fair to say he was arguably the best Blue Jacket this season. Like, and we'll kind of get into that as we're going to do some more of these kind of season reviews, because that's basically what this is. We'll do a season review of Zach Werenski. We'll talk about how good he was, and we'll talk about, like, what do we want from Zach Werenski next season, right? Zach Werenski led this team in scoring, and I don't believe it was particularly close either. I believe second place was Krelbachenko, who finished with, I want to say, 73 points. Zach Werenski finished with 82 points. So Werenski finished, he had 74 points, excuse me. So Werenski finished 8 points ahead of the next highest scoring Blue Jacket, who was a forward. Zach Werenski, obviously, defenseman. A defenseman leading the team in scoring is always fascinating to me. I believe it happened last year with Quinn Hughes. I might be wrong about that, but I don't believe anyone outscored Quinn Hughes on the Canucks last season, which is always fun, right? I think even the year before that, I'm pretty sure Erik Karlsson outscored everyone on the Sharks by, like, a lot, because they were miserably bad, and he had like 102 points or something insane like that, which, again, always funny. But I think it's fun. Is it, like, the most sustainable? Okay, I was incorrect. JT Miller had 103 points. Quinn Hughes had 92 points. So he was Quinn Hughes did not lead his team in scoring, but he got real close. And then just for my own benefit, Erik Karlsson led the 22-23 Sharks. Erik Karlsson had 34 points more than the next highest scoring player, which was Logan Couture. Wild. A truly insane season from him. Miserably bad season from basically everyone else, it looks like. But basically, the point I'm making here is that it's extremely, extremely rare for a defenseman to lead his team in scoring. And the fact that Zach Werenski did that, very, very impressive, right? And Zach Werenski broke a lot of his own record, which is also funny. Like, there was what was it? October, I think it was November, December, January. He set the record for most points by a Blue Jacket in a month, and then he broke that record the next season, and then he tied that record the season after, the month after that. I think he set the record in November, broke it in December, and then tied it again in January, which is always fun. Believe he definitely broke his own record for most goals in a season by a Blue Jacket. He had 23 goals in a season. The previous high was 20, set by Zach Werenski in, I want to say, 2019. Yeah, it was the 2019-2020 season. So he had 20 goals in that season. He only played 63 games because obviously that was the season that kind of ground to a halt with like 20 games left. So he could potentially have gotten even more. That was that we were getting a really good Zach Werenski that season as well. He broke Seth Jones's record for most points by a defenseman in a single season, and I believe he broke Seth Jones's record as well for most assists. I don't remember who held that record, whether it was in fact Werenski or it was Jones, because like if Werenski doesn't have a record for Blue Jackets defenseman, Seth Jones probably has it, because again he was really good for this team when he was here. And it sounds like he's doing really well in Florida, which is interesting. Because there was a lot of talk about, well, did Seth Jones inform on who Zach Werenski was as a player? Or is it the other way around? Obviously, Seth Jones went to Chicago and was immediately brutal. Or is it just that Seth Jones needs someone with a pulse to play with? Which is maybe rude of me with the state of Chicago, but also like doesn't necessarily make me wrong, right? So assists in a season, I believe he broke his own record. He did in fact break his own record. The previous high was 46 assists in a season. He had 59 assists in a season this year. Last year 46. So again, he broke his own. And then I believe it would have been Seth Jones's record for most points. Basically, the point I'm trying to make here is he was record-breakingly good for the Blue Jackets. Now, I will say, the Blue Jackets have been miserably bad for most of the 25 years that they've existed. So, like, I'm not going to sit here and say that breaking records is the same as it would be on, like, breaking records on, like, Boston or Detroit or any other team, or the Rangers, for example, that have been around for, a bajillion years. But Zach Werenski was, I think, it's fair to argue, the MVP of the Blue Jackets this season. I think there is consideration that he was a league-wide MVP. Now, people get really mad about MVP awards because they're like, well, no, this player was better than him, so he can't be the MVP. Like, MVP is not an award for the best player on the team, right? And I feel like the MVP award almost always goes to whoever led the league in scoring. Like, not always, but generally. And I've kind of been a big proponent for, hey, what if we gave it to goalies sometimes? Like Connor Hellebuyck should probably have won it last season. I think there was a season when Igor Shesterkin should have won it, but Austin Matthews scored 60 goals, so we had to give it to him instead. But this team without Werenski, I think, like, okay, for example, Leon Draisaitl is probably going to win the Hart, and I don't like have a problem with that on the surface of it. But if you take Leon Draisaitl away from Edmonton, they still have Connor McDavid, right? They still have Evan Bouchard. They still have good players, and I'm not okay. Columbus also still has good players if you take Zach Werenski away from them. But again, if you take Nate McKinnon away from Colorado, Cale Makar still exists. I was going to say Mikko Rantanen still exists, but he doesn't anymore. But if you take Zach Werenski away from Columbus, this team, I think, immediately gets worse. Again, he had 82 points on the season, which I believe is about... He was involved, I want to say, in like 30% of the Blue Jackets' goals scored. I'm trying to find the NHL standings, which apparently don't exist now that the playoffs have started. The Blue Jackets scored 273 goals this season. Zach Werenski was involved in 82 of them, which is around about a third, let's say. I think a third of that would be 91. So he's just under a third. So yeah, like 32% of the goals the Blue Jackets scored this season, Zach Werenski was involved in. Like, he was just unreal, and Yes, there are players that were involved in a higher percentage of goals for their team, but I don't think it can be overstated just how much the offense ran through Zach Werenski this season. Like, yes, other players had excellent seasons, like Kromachenko, breakout season. Ken Johnson, phenomenal. Sean Monahan, great. Adam Fantilli went like Super Saiyan halfway through the season there. Zach Werenski, it all started with him, right? Because we saw that when Zach Werenski was having a bad game, which did not happen very often, or for example, I think a lot about that one game that he missed, which was against the Buffalo Sabres. And now, in fairness, he missed that game. Kromachenko missed that game, and Dante Fabro missed that game because the last two were injured. Werenski banged up. And that game, watching them try to create offense was like watching them try to do backwards rolls uphill, right? It was like they were trying to climb through sludge. This team just needed Zach Werenski on the ice to do anything. He was the workhorse for this team, right? And we've talked a lot about Sean Monahan being the heart and soul of this team. Zach Werenski was like the hands of this team. Like, just everything good started with Werenski, right? And quite frankly, a lot of the good finished with him as well. A 23 goal season, which I think was good for like third or fourth on the team. Record breakingly good for the Blue Jackets. But was he good enough to win the Norris? And we're going to discuss that in just a second here at Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I'm going to tell you about FanDuel because the NBA playoffs are here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. FanDuel makes betting super easy, whether it's picking your team, diving into player props, like three-pointers, steals, assists. FanDuel has a billion different ways to bet on your favorite player props, and after the game tips off, you can even combine live prop bets into a same-game parlay for a chance to win big. Don't miss out. Head to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 in bonus bets today. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. We're talking about Zach Werenski today, and let's talk about the Norris. We've talked about just how good Zach Werenski was, kind of in a vacuum on the Blue Jackets. Best defensive player by far, best defenseman by far, like MVP of this team, hands down. Does he deserve the Norris? And I go back and forth on this because like my heart says yes every single time, and my head is like, is Makar better? And I don't know that I believe that Makar is better than Zach Werenski. And maybe that's me being a homer, which, hi, welcome. This is a Blue Jackets podcast. I go back to, and I think it's not necessarily the be all and end all, because I know a lot of the really great stats guys account for both quality of competition and quality of teammate. But I do think about what would happen if Zach Werenski was on a team with Nathan MacKinnon, right? Or if Zach Werenski was on a team with Connor McDavid, or Sidney Crosby in his prime, or Austin Matthews, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? What would his points totals look like? And that's not to discredit again Kromachenko, who was a real star for this team this year. But if Zach Werenski was just slinging passes to, Nathan MacKinnon, let's use him as a continued example, what would his season look like? Zach Werenski also gets a lot of flack for not being defensively responsible, which I think it's not untrue, but I also don't think it's necessarily true, right? He is an offensive defenseman. That's his game. He's never going to be Jacob Slavin, for example. He does fine, and a lot of a good defense is offense, or whatever the best defense is a good offense, right? Zach Werenski is extremely good at it's taking the puck in his own zone and moving it out of there, right? Like, do I think he's good at, strictly defensive things? And, for defensive things here could mean anything from, like, breaking up plays to blocking shots to taking the puck in the corners, whatever. I think he could be better there, right? I think, yes, he could absolutely be better defensively. That is a very fair statement to make, I think. But I feel like if Zach Werenski has the puck on his stick in the defensive zone, I'm not like super worried about it, right? Like, I feel like this season we see a lot of, or I saw a lot of anyway, of unforced errors by defensemen on the Blue Jackets. And we're talking, Damon Severson, we're talking Dante Fabro had a couple of wobbles. Dante Matejchuk, because he's 12, had a couple of these. But I feel like Zach Werenski, if the puck is on his stick in the defensive zone, it's fine. Like, he's not going to be a world-beating, like, shot blocker or anything like that. But if he manages to get the puck, generally speaking, it's fine. They can make their way out of the zone, right? And this was kind of validated to me by, I know everyone loves to hate Jay Fresh Hockey, but for the purposes of this, because he said nice things about Werenski a couple of days ago, we are going to go ahead and use him. I'm just pulling up the tweet he had. So he looked up all three of the Norris finalists. So Quinn Hughes, Cale Makar, Zach Werenski. Quinn Hughes, for my money, was the best of the three. He just missed too much time, I think. He's extremely good offensively and defensively. Just basically single-handedly runs the Canucks in all three zones, which is very impressive. Makar, extremely good offensively, fine defensively. Funnily enough, Werenski was actually better offensively. He didn't put up as many points as Makar, but he was better in terms of neutral zone stuff that leads to neutral zone and defensive zone stuff that leads to offensive zone stuff. His zone entries and exits were way better. Like, his exit possession rate, his exit success rate, like, he was not quite as good defensively as Makar, but overall, for my money, I think Zach Werenski had a better season. But it is very funny to look at his stat card, which, again, things like goals, chances, shots, shot contributions, rush offense, etc., etc. The one thing that he does struggle with is preventing the other team from entering the zone, which I guess kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, which is if he has the puck, great. If he's trying to stop someone else from having the puck, then it gets a little bit wobbly. And he was still, in the blue for that, which is, blue is good. The paler the blue, the better. Obviously, red is worse. His second lowest thing here is that entry chance prevention, which was at 54%, which is still extremely good. Below that was hits, where he was at 5%, which is very funny. His only real weakness is the penalty kill, and he was still at a 39% success rate for that, which is better than Makar's 15%. So again, frankly, I think it's closer than a lot of people want to say between these two players. And Avs fans will say yes, Makar is absolutely better. Blue Jackets fans will say yes, Werenski is absolutely better. I think it's really too close to tell. I really genuinely do. And I won't be surprised either way. I think Makar's going to win it. I still think, of the two of them, I still think I prefer Werenski, which, again, hello, welcome. This is the Blue Jackets podcast. But genuinely, I think Quinn Hughes had the best season. I think Quinn Hughes was the best defenseman. I think he was working with a group of cardboard cutouts and, like, baby ducks for most of the season. He missed a bunch of time due to injury, was not 100% when he got back, had to deal with everything that was happening in Vancouver, and still managed to put up, still managed to be in the 97th percentile for offense, the 71st percentile for defense in the entire league. Just, again, he, I believe, was the highest points per game defenseman of the three. And now I know everyone gets mad because points are not the be all and end all of defensemen, but I don't know. I like I like Hughes. I've liked him for a long time. I called him winning the Norris last year in like September of before the season started, which I'm still extremely smug about. But I think it's fair to say it's going to be a two-horse race. It's going to be between Makar and Werenski. I think Makar probably takes it, but I think Werenski probably deserves it more. I think Werenski was better all round. Werenski was better in more categories than Makar, for my money, anyway. I want to take another quick break, and then when we get back, I want to talk about what's next for Zach Werenski, right? Is there another gear he can hit? Is 100 points possible for a guy like Zach Werenski? And that's so very rare. It's been done by like one guy in the past 30 years. Is it possible for Zach Werenski? Is it possible that he turns into a perennial Norris candidate? We're going to talk about that in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. We've talked about how good Zach Werenski's season was. We've talked about whether he deserves the Norris or not. I want to talk about kind of what happens next for Zach Werenski, right? Because people are kind of acting like this has come out of nowhere a little bit. And to an extent, I think it's true in that he beat his career high by, like 30-ish points, 25 points. His previous career high was 57. This year at 82. Don't let me do the math on that. I think it's 25. But like when you look at it, he's been putting together things like this kind of very quietly, and he's been hampered by injuries a lot. So in the 22-23 season, he had 8 points in his first 13 games before he separated his shoulder and was done for the year, right? Or it was a torn labrum, I think. In 2019-20, 63 games, 41 points. He put 47 points in his rookie season. He has kind of been not hobbled in recent years, but I don't think it's a secret that when Seth Jones left, his play suffered. But I don't know that that's a Seth Jones thing, right? I think more it turned into the fact that they were like, well, now we need a partner for Werenski. And what they needed was, again, a partner for Zach Werenski. He didn't have a consistent defensive partner. I'm just going to see if I can pull up what his most regular partner last season would have been. His most regular partner last season was Damon Severson, and they played 456 minutes together, which is 100 minutes less than Jake Bean and Erica Branson played together, and that's your third pairing defenseman. They just didn't have a partner for him. He played 330 minutes with Adam Boquist. He played 233 minutes with with Gabranson. Played 87 with Provorov, played 81 with Blankenberg, played 67 with Bean, played 43 with Juracek, 32 with Peak. So basically every other defenseman on the roster, they put with Zach Werenski at some point. What was his leading, again, was he played with Severson for 456 minutes last season. This season, he played 1,009 minutes with Dante Fabro, which is over double, blows the next best duo out of the water, which is Provorov and Matejchuk at 537 minutes. If you flip that to the entire league, only 5 duos played together more than Werenski and Fabro. And they were excellent. And again, I think Dante Fabro, you need to re-sign him. For a lot of reasons. I like him a lot. I think he's a very good defenseman. I think you don't want to let him walk for free like a certain team in yellow did. But also, Zach Werenski clearly loves playing with him. Zach Werenski excels when he's playing with him. Like, he had a good start to the season, but I really think that he took off when Fabro showed up, right? I don't think that's a secret. I don't think that's a surprise. Having consistency, and we've talked about this for the forwards a lot, right? shockingly, you give a guy consistent line mates and he excels, right? He exceeds expectations. Zach Werenski playing with Dante Fabro, they gelled, right? I think Zach Werenski brought out the best in Fabro. I think Fabro was the ideal partner for Werenski in that he is also kind of offensively minded, but he's also willing to be the last man back. He's going to let Werenski do his rover stuff. And he's not a complete liability in his own zone. You know, I feel like so many times they've tried to put Werenski with someone like Damon Severson, for example, who is also a defensive defenseman. In theory, he's certainly not defensive defenseman. And it doesn't work, right? I liked Werenski and Provorov a lot at the beginning of the season. I don't know off the top of my head how much they played together. Let's see if I can pull that up real quick. Yeah, Werenski and Provorov played 355 minutes together at the beginning of the season, and also on and off, like, which I guess is, they played a couple of minutes here, a couple of minutes there when the Blue Jackets were rolling 4 or 5 defensemen, when they were rolling 7 defensemen, but Fabro was the main guy. I liked Werenski and Provorov a lot as a duo, because again, Provorov stepped back into a defensive role when Werenski needed him to, and Fabro was that, but more. So all of this to say is, I think that Werenski has another level that he can hit, because I think they need to give him a full season playing exclusively with Fabro. They've talked about how they want to rehaul the defense, but they also want to re-sign Fabro and Provorov, and so I don't really know what the story is there, but just looking at Zach Werenski, if you want to get the best out of Werenski, you have to give him back Dante Fabro. I don't think that, okay, you don't re-sign Dante Fabro. You go into next season with the top pairing of Werenski and whoever. I think they want to keep Provorov to play with Matejchuk. That's fine, whatever. As long as they don't sign him long term, whatever. But you have to go out, and I don't know that there's a free agent defenseman that makes more sense with Werenski than Fabro, right? Like, I like Gavrikov a lot. He's a solid bottom 4 defenseman, defensive shutdown guy, right? Aaron Ekblad, I like a lot. I don't think he's going to be as good for Werenski as Fabro is. And maybe that's, again, recency bias, maybe that's confirmation bias, I don't know. But if you want Zach Werenski to be as good this season as to be as good next season as he was this season, like, A, you need Fabro, but B, you just need to kind of keep letting him play his game, because this is the game that we've known he can play, right? Like, we've seen it before, not on this scale. Felt like he was on another level this season, but he's been ramping up. Like, he's been shifting gears. Like, this is not out of nowhere. This is not out of the blue. And I wouldn't be surprised to see another 80-point season from him next season. I think he has 100 points in him. He was on pace to hit, I think, 93 before the team collectively forgot how to stop scoring goals. There was, I didn't even mention the home point streak. He had like 22 straight home games without a point. Just extremely, extremely good offensively. And I do think he has more to give there, because he had bad games. I think he'll tell you that. I think fatigue probably set in. He played approximately a bajillion minutes. What was his actual average? He averaged 26.45 this season, which was a career high for him by about a minute. And I believe that led the entire NHL. He also played in the Four Nations when everyone else got to go sit on a beach for 2 weeks. He played, I think he led the Four Nations in ice time as well. I might be wrong about that, but he played a ton of hockey. And so he's not playing he's not going to the World Championships this year. Obviously, he's going to be on the Olympics roster next year. Should be, he's obviously a lock for the top 4 for the Olympics roster. But he's not playing World Championships this year. He's taking the summer off, presumably again because he played a bajillion minutes. Give him time to rest. I'm really, really excited to see what Werenski we get in October, because I really do think that this is the start of something pretty special for Blue Jackets fans. Finished second in a single season for points among Blue Jackets. The only player that has ever beaten him is Artemi Panarin, who had, I think, 87 points. Werenski, 82. Finished 5 points short of the record. And again, there was a ton of games in there where no one was scoring. So, like, again, was that Werenski's fault a little bit, but was it everyone else's fault? Sure. Like, again, he had, even in games where he didn't register, like, a point, he was still shooting the puck like a maniac, quite frankly. When we look at that stretch after the All-Star game, where the All-Star game, excuse me, the outdoor game, where the team collectively forgot how scoring worked. He had, where is it? Here we go. He went 6 games without a point between March 13th and March 24th. And in those games, he had 4 shots on goal, 2 shots on goal, 5 shots on goal, 6 shots on goal, 8 shots on goal, 2 shots on goal. Now, I believe they did win in there somewhere. I believe it was the Islanders game that they won. But he's clearly, shot the puck a lot, couldn't make it work. If you give him this offseason, give him a full year as Dante Fabro, the plays in front of him are going to get better as well. Like, Kent Johnson's going to hit a new level. Fantilli's going to keep going. A full season of Monahan probably wouldn't hurt Zach Werenski's efforts, right? I think Zach Werenski flirts with 90 to 100 points next season. And I think it's going to be fun. Overall grade, obviously it's an A. I was going to put up a Twitter poll and ask people, but I assumed that everyone would say the same thing and sue me. Like, obviously, A+, but we're not doing pluses or minuses. We're just going to do straight letter grades because I'm old and I'm tired. A for Werenski, easily. And we're going to continue these season reviews kind of in the coming weeks. I started with Werenski because of the Norris, but I think I don't know what kind of system we're going to use yet. Maybe we'll do Kromachenko in a couple of days. But that's it for today. I'll be back tomorrow with another episode of Locked on Blue Jackets. Thank you for listening to this episode, making us your first listen of the day every single day. Locked on Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube. You can find me on Twitter at _Jacob Foster, JKOBFORSTER. You can find me on Blue Sky, same handle without the underscore. You can find the show at LO_Blue Jackets on Twitter. We're not on Blue Sky yet. We're working on it. If you have comments, questions, criticisms, email me at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. And until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.